Have you planted your garden? For weeks it has rained, so today we're getting the garden in. Hello everybody, this is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Today we're just going to do something. It has finally stopped raining, and today I'm cleaning up the garden and getting it planted. Most of you know that I work a lot. Not only am I a school teacher, but I also work part-time at the farm store. I have a farm stand at the end of our lane. I also do the farmer's market and YouTube. So my time is precious, and it has been raining for weeks and weeks. But today, look at that. The sun is out, so I am working on the garden. Not only do we use woven weave fabric on the surface of our entire garden, we use a lot of T-posts and cattle panels. We have a hot mess right now. We have started to clean up this area. On the far end, we had sweet potatoes last year. So when you raise sweet potatoes, you completely remove the fabric, which we did. And now the weeds are growing up there. It's fine because we're going to put new fabric on it, and that's where we're planting corn. And this section right here, Jim asked me what I want for my birthday, which is next week. And I said, cattle panels. Isn't that what everybody asked for? On the agenda first is I am cleaning up these cattle panel trellises. I've got the first two done. You can see the one back there still has lima beans hanging off of it. But it's very easy because I'm just pulling everything off and then I'm sweeping it. And that's all you need to do with woven weave. Once I have this all cleaned up, like this one over here, then I'm just going to start planting cucumbers today. That's my goal, is to get those seeds in. As far as cucumbers, I have been raising Armenian yard long for about 5 years. These are from Baker Creek. And you know what? It's actually not even a cucumber. It's a melon. But it tastes like a cucumber, and the seeds are tiny. They are the best, by far, cucumber I've ever had. So this very first trellis is dedicated to Armenian cucumbers. And then I saw some other seeds that said Armenian yard long cucumber. I thought, all right, I'll get some extra. Look at these. They look nothing like the ones I've raised in the past. So why not? I'm going to make the second trellis, this other packet of seeds, and we're going to see how they do. Now, since I've used this trellis already last year, these holes are, oh, there goes a worm. These holes are already burned into the fabric. And that answers another question. A lot of people say if you use the fabric, you'll kill off the native worms. That simply is not true. When I plant my cucumber seeds, I actually put 2 of them into the hole. That way, if one of them doesn't develop, I still have the other. If there's 2, I can decide if they are overcrowded or if I can keep them both. I prefer to direct seed them into the soil. I have done the transplanting before. Honestly, when I plant them as seeds, they grow stronger and faster than the transplant I had right next to it that had been growing for 3 or 4 weeks. All right, I planted 2 trellises of Armenian cucumbers, 2 different varieties, and you'll notice I always plant on the outside of the trellis. That way it'll grow up and over. You don't want it on the inside. You're going to have to weave it around and try to get it back on the outside. So I do it on the outside to start with. On to the third trellis. What I'm going to do now is start pulling all these pods and vines down. We got our lima beans in so late. They never really did produce a lot, and then they produce later. So I'm going to clean all this up and plant some more cucumbers. I grow so much lettuce, but what I thought was really interesting this year is that it was coming up in my yard, out in the field, and so I've transplanted them back into the garden. Broccoli is doing excellent in this frame, and on the far end I have red cabbage. This year I have planted 80 tomato plants, and I'm doing it a little different. This time I'm not planting my favorite varieties. I'm planting the tomatoes that sold the best at the farmer's market. So things like Mr. Stripey and Old German really sold a ton. But the regular red slicing tomatoes, womp, womp, womp. They just were not a hit. My tomatoes have been in for several weeks, and I am thrilled to see they are already flowering. I had a difficult time growing peas this year. We had a rabbit or a squirrel, but every time I came out, I was missing another pea plant. So I have some. I'm not going to be able to sell at the market because there's just not going to be enough, but boy, do I love sugar snap peas. Well, you may be able to tell that it is now sunset, and I've been out here since noon. Now, the good news, I got all of my trellises cleaned off. There are 6 of them. I have 5 of them planted, so this last one, I just ran out of time. I will have to continue this video. I will be planting tomorrow. I keep going back and forth between another set of cucumbers or some summer squash, zucchini and yellow. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna have to think on that one. This is day 2 of perfect, beautiful weather in my garden. So I was trying to figure out what to plant on this last trellis. I've decided to go with squash. I put in 6 plants, and let me tell you, I'm a little concerned that these 6 plants are gonna give me 5 gazillion zucchini, but I'm gonna give it a go. And on this side, I'm going to plant yellow squash. We are down to the last 4 days of school. I can't believe it, but this is always my favorite time of year. Today, I did an entire lesson on having a garden, and we each planted seeds. In fact, they were bean seeds that the students can take home and grow their own beans. Well, there we have it. I planted 12 summer squash plants. We are going to have an abundance of summer squash as long as we don't have those squash beetles, but I have some plans that I'm going to try this year. One of them is growing it vertically, and by doing that, those plants are going to go up instead of laying on the ground, which gives more opportunity to those wicked squash bugs. I was rather surprised when I got out of teaching today. It was 92 degrees, and I had planted a lot of seedlings the day before, but all of my seedlings are hardened off. I do that myself because I raise my seeds myself. But they're all alive, and not only that, they're doing quite well. Between the birds singing, you can just hear the hum of tractors and lawnmowers, because honestly, all we've had for weeks and weeks is rain. I have a question for you. Are you preparing? This has been on my mind constantly, not just now that garden season has started, but because I am afraid of our future. And we are not to fear, but the reality is we are to be prepared. So are you prepared to raise your own food? That is one tiny little celery. I started a 6-pack and only one made it. I had some bad soil at the beginning of the season. But these are eggplants, and they're actually doing quite well. You have a garden? You don't need something as huge as my garden, but you need something that you can raise food if you're suddenly unable to buy food. A lot of my new subscribers don't know about our past. I was very young when I met my husband. We were teenagers. We grew up, we got married, we had kids, and when I was in my 40s, I was suddenly left a widow. Now, my new husband, Jim, very similar. He was married, and he also lost his wife in his 40s. And so we met and married, which gave us 6 kids. But most of my life, I was a poor farmer. We didn't have a big, huge, fancy house. In fact, we had a very old 1860s farmhouse. And because we were so poor, I had to learn how to raise our food, how to can, freeze, and store it. Those were the best years of my life. And here we are, pushing 60 years old. I don't have one job. I actually have 2. I'm a full-time teacher, and I work at a farm store part-time. Jim is also working. He works 10-hour days. And a lot of people our age are retired, and they're taking the slow life. And I always say, I'm just not going to stop, because if you can work, I feel you should work. There are many, many people who are trying to destroy our system of homesteading and farming. And I'm just one of those who's not ready to give it up. So I raise food, not just for me, not just for our families, but also for our communities. And my fear is It's only about 1% of the population is doing this. The rest of them are saying, I can't do anything. I don't have money. I don't have 20 acres. The reality is everybody can just do something. Don't have acres and acres? These are mineral tubs. I grow everything from herbs to vegetables to fruit in these tubs. They were $5. Just look on Marketplace. Drink tea, raise your own chamomile. Again, in a mineral tub. You can always raise lettuce. Thousands of seeds come in each seed packet, and you can even get them for $4 for $1 at Dollar Tree. Not sure where to start? Buy a tomato plant and plant it in a pot. Put it off your back porch and you will have tomatoes. Are blueberries more your style? This plant is only 2 years old. I do a ton of vacuum sealing videos, and I think what happened that very first couple months of doing YouTube, I posted a video on how to vacuum seal your baking ingredients, and it took off. I am just under 1 million views from that one video, and so all of those new subscribers only wanted to see one thing: vacuum sealing. Don't get me wrong, I love vacuum sealing. I love preserving food, but I also love homesteading, and that involves so much more. I have chickens. I love collecting eggs, raising chickens, and honestly, as a homesteader, I love to garden, but more people only want to see vacuum sealing. I think it's because vacuum sealing is a skill that anybody can use anywhere. So if you're living in a big city, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you can vacuum seal your food and it will last longer. The other aspects of raising your food is going to take a little bit more time and room, and so I think I have a limited audience on that. But if we are talking about storing food for hard times and to just do something, then I am going to have to bring this video back around and show you how to vacuum seal. Here are some of the foods that I keep vacuum sealed at all times. We have flour, pasta, rice, dried beans, and popcorn. But today I'm going to show you how to vacuum seal some crackers. Especially in the spring and summer, I like to vacuum seal my dried goods like crackers because they will very quickly become stale. It gets pretty humid here in West Virginia, and so there's nothing worse than opening up a pack of crackers just to have them stale within 2 days. And because they become stale so quickly, I actually am just going to use a small jar. This is a pint wide mouth. When you're doing something like crackers, you want to be able to get your hand in there. So I do them in small jars so that we only expose them to air and moisture in small quantities. The first thing is to fill your jar. Now, unlike rice, where I'm just going to pour it in, or oatmeal or anything else, I am carefully going to set them down in there. I don't want cracker crumbs. I want crackers. I do shake it around, try to get it so that I can fit a little more in there. I wipe that rim off with my clean hand, and I'm going to put a used lid on it. You can see where I've opened this one multiple times. With vacuum sealing, you can use that lid over and over again. I'm going to put on the attachment like that and push it down so it's tight. There we go. The next step is to attach it to your vacuum sealer through a port. This is my Food Saver FM5200. If you've watched any of my videos, I absolutely love this puppy dog. You're going to turn on your vacuum sealer and then hit accessory, and it will shut off automatically when the air is removed. Then remove all these attachments and check the seal. I write on the top organic crackers because we are making the switch from regular food that you find in the store. I don't like that is bioengineered, and so if we buy it in a box, I aim for organic. And since not all our food has been switched over to organic, I make sure I write it on the lid. Another thing you're going to see is the best by date. I've added 1 year, December 2025, because crackers are not good for long-term storage. You need to read the list of ingredients on the side of your box and determine if all of those things can be stored long-term. My rule of thumb is if it's one ingredient, I can store it long-term. But when you add more and more ingredients to the product, it has a shorter shelf life. This is the third day in my garden, and it was super hot today, again in the 90s. So I just got home from school and I watered everything. Despite the heat, I only lost one zucchini plant. He's not looking too good, so I've already replanted with a new one. That's the advantage of growing your own seedlings. You always have extras. And I lost one purple pepper, but I already have 7 others, so it's not a huge loss. I'll just replant with another color. And despite these hot temperatures and beating down full sun, most of my plants are looking really good in the garden. There we have another sunset. If you enjoyed this video on just do something, whether you're planting a garden or you're preserving food, maybe you're just stocking up. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a blessed evening, everybody. Bye-bye.